Hey everybody, Unapologetic Truth. I wanted to come on here and briefly clarify something and elaborate a little bit on my video about leaving Christianity, embracing truth. So this is going to talk a little bit more about my experience after I left my home state. So I do want to apologize because I had said that I hadn't been back to church since that encounter I had at my mother's church. But the Ruach brought it back to my recollection that I actually had been to church. But the clarification is I haven't been back to church in my home state. So the experience I had in my current state, and again, this was a couple years ago, just still holding on to some of that, feeling that I needed to be in church. I was trying to find an assembly or a church that spoke of the truth, and didn't subscribe to these pagan holidays and things of that nature. And I was taking my client to church as well. So there were several encounters that I experienced in taking him to church, because he is a Gentile and he really hadn't been exposed to much of the quote unquote black experience when it came to church. So I took him to church a few times, and again, I was in a new area, just trying to find a church home. But again, I was doing this on Sundays, which just new in the awakening, trying to still kind of hold on to some things that were inbred for so long. It's hard to break those cycles. I'm sure a lot of you know what I mean. So I actually went to several churches, and the thing about it was I either saw different things, like for example, just I noticed that they weren't trying to push tithing down your throat. They just kind of had a box where you can put your tithes and offering in, and that wasn't even in the sanctuary. That was outside of the sanctuary. So I liked that. So I went back to this church a few times on those kind of premises. But, you have to understand, just because they show one aspect doesn't mean that's where you need to be. So went there, and a couple times I had been there, I just was seeing still a lot of that, like I call it pomp and circumstance, the emotionalism more than the truth. It's too much Churchianity still. Then just was trying to go to a different church, and I think this was one of the last encounters that really kind of soured me to all of it. But other than visiting a friend's church, and they were still trying to, worship, recognize the holidays and stuff like that, and that was a Gentiles church. But so that I knew that was pretty much doing that for my client more than anything else, which we need to get out of too. because we don't honor the Most High in that way, and so I've learned that lesson as well, and repented for that. But my last real encounter that really, really, truly just drove it all home here, went to a church, and this was after I had tried to do some research, went online and read their doctrine, their creed and things of that nature. And I was like, oh, okay. I liked what I saw, a little bit of what I heard on the website type of thing. And I'm like, okay, and it wasn't that far from where I stayed. So I'm like, okay, got my client situated and we went. And I'm not a big fan of how these churches look more like concert halls and, like you're going to a concert and all of that. Like, and everything's all dark. And, when you get in the so-called, I don't even call it a sanctuary anymore because I don't even know what it is. But when you get in there, it's all dark and you got all the spotlights and all of that. And it's a stage and it's just a whole lot of extra, which where is the spirit in that? Where is the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit? It's not even it's just an atmosphere that I'm never a fan of when I see it. Because I feel like it's pandering to the churches today, that entertainment thing. But anyway, I digress. So get in there, and not even in there a half hour, and the pastor, by the time we were there, he just started preaching, and he gonna mention LeBron James in his sermon. And that was the second time that I went to a service within that 2-week period where the pastor was talking about LeBron James in his sermon. And I'm like, yeah, nah, not feeling that. So I was already tuning out by this point, and I'm literally completely tuned out. But again, staying there more so for my client's benefit. And actually, no, but by that point, forgive me, because by that point, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. And we left out. Again, the atmosphere, I wasn't feeling the atmosphere. And when he made that particular comment, that I was done, completely done. So forgive me. There's a lot that's going on in the past, 2 years, 3 years, so, and of course, still dealing with a lot of that history that I'm trying to get over, thanks to Yah. And so as we were leaving up out of there, I happened to see an ATM. Yeah, so I was really to the left by this point. Because bad enough, they were selling merch and everything else before you even got in there, I don't even know what to call it. I don't even know if it was a vestibule. It looked like a refurbished store. And so I just was done. I was completely done. I was so angry. And we got out of there, and by the time we got back to the house, I couldn't even get on Google Maps fast enough so I could leave my review. But I blew them completely out, and it made me feel just like I felt just, well, maybe not just like, but I felt so much of what Yahushua must have felt when he went into the temple and seen the money changers and then making it look like a marketplace. And he turned that spot out because I wanted to turn that church out. And I ain't even going to call it a church. I don't even know what to call it, to be honest. But I went on there and I My review was so harsh. It was ridiculous. But I couldn't let that slide. I couldn't. People needed to know, and they needed to be put on notice. They were no better than the money changers in that church, in that synagogue, in the temple, excuse me. So all of this just pretty much made me to the point where I didn't want to do it anymore. And that's when I really started being more about trying to seek just an assembly, however I could find it, online, and did tried to participate more in Shabbat worship. So I definitely wanted to get on here and clarify those details. But remember, keep him first. When you're seeking, and I'm still trying to seek a local assembly, but it is what it is. We got to think outside of the box. And he knows where we're at. He knows that we are trying to be faithful in this journey. I'm speaking to those that are in my similar situation, and those that are still teetering with being in mainstream church. Please get in your word. Please understand the truth. If your church is not speaking about the things that are truly represented in the word, if they're not looking at the true children of Yasharal, Israel, if they're not acknowledging that the Messiah is a man of color, if they're still recognizing pagan holidays, even if they're trying to put a twist on it, leave it alone. It's going against the word. And in the end, we're all going to be judged for those things. In fact, he's going to judge the church first, because we're supposed to know better. So please keep that in mind. That's all I got to say for today. And I thank y'all for supporting. Thank y'all for just letting me share. And y'all be blessed. Shalom.